I'm Jere Kirkpatrick, and I'm teaching the fundamentals of metal shaping. And this is John Morton.
Yes, and Jere and I both worked at Shelby's in the very beginning when nobody knew what a Cobra was. And he went on to become an expert metal shaper, and I didn't like the work, so I decided to be a race car driver instead. And I know very little about metal shaping, but enough to know that it's an extremely difficult discipline that obviously Jere followed through on his beginnings in a different way than I did.
The end.
Yeah, the end.
Yeah, clap.
Yeah.
All right.
In 2017, I was at the Willow Springs racetrack for the annual Shelby American Former Employees Reunion when I was approached by Jim Marietta, who has put together the original Venice Crew. He asked if I would be interested in fabricating some of the pieces for the 1965 Mustangs with an independent rear suspension that he's going to be building. He wanted the plenum chambers, valve covers, and that type of thing. He said that he wanted some hand fabricated and oxyacetylene welded aluminum pieces, exactly like the ones that I used to make at the Shelby shop back in the 1960s. So in order to make some of these pieces, make the funnels for them, I had to roll some pieces that look just like this to make them into a funnel for the plenum chamber and the fuel spill. In order to make these pieces, I was going to have to use my small slip roll. I was going to have about 50 pieces to make, and I couldn't see myself hand cranking the slip roll to turn out that many pieces. So I decided to try to make it powered in some way. So I started thinking about all of the gears, chains, sprockets, reduction gears, and everything like that. So at about 3 o'clock in the morning, I sat bolt upright in bed and thought to myself, my bead roller has all of the stuff necessary. So I got some bushing material, some 1/2-inch square bar stock, bought a couple of 1/2-inch drive 5/8 universal sockets, and a short piece of hexagon bar stock. So if you'd be interested in seeing how I used all this stuff to make my slip roll powered by my bead roller, you gotta stick around. If you're interested in learning more about the original Venice Crew and the independent rear suspension Mustangs that they'll be building, just type in original Venice Crew here in YouTube and you'll see many videos that will tell you about that project. So let's get this train rolling. So the first thing I've got to do is make a base for my slip roll that fits the same bolt pattern as my vise. Well, that was much easier than I thought. And you're probably asking why it's not squared up on the edge of the table. It's so if I want to use the slip roll as it was intended with a handle, I can use the same bolt pattern as my vise and use it in that way. So for the first thing I need to do is turn a small step on the squares so they will index and center on the bushings, both on the slip roll side and the bead roller side. I always like to drive anything that I have on my bead roller with a key, so I'm going to mark the tube that will slide over the bead roller shaft, cut this area out so I can weld in a key stock. And here the slot has been cut, the key is in place, ready for welding. And here it is after welding. Now with all the parts prepared, it's time to weld them together and cut them to length. And here they are after they've been all welded and the square shafts have been cut to length. And now the 1/2 inch drive by 5/8 sockets have been put in place. So here on the driven end of the slip roll, you can see that there's a divot for a set screw. So I'm going to take that measurement to center and transfer that to the sleeve with the square drive on it. So here I've got the piece laid out. I found that 170 thousandths from this end would put me exactly in the middle of the hole on the input shaft of the slip roll. But how did I find the top of this piece here? Well, I just took another piece that's exactly the same diameter, put a file across there, and rolled it, and that establishes the exact top of that piece. Now I can put my center punch right at the crosshatch, and I know my hole is going to be right on center. Here's the driven bushing on the shaft with a set screw, and here is the socket in place. And here is the driving shaft from my bead roller with the adapter installed and the 5/8 swivel socket put in place. When I first thought of this scheme, it was my plan to use just a short piece of hexagon to drive the slip roll over there. But I have this longer piece, and I can keep my bead roller mounted to the stand. With the shorter piece, I was going to have to take the bead roller off, mount it to the table every time I wanted to use it. But this thing works so slick, all I have to do is pull my bead roller over, hook up the shaft, and I'm ready to go. So let's take a look at how well this thing works. Okay, so I can use the same foot control as on my bead roller. So I have a little sample piece here. I'm going to put it in just a slight amount and give it a bend just to get rid of the flat. Here we go. Can definitely go faster than that. So I'm going to give this a half a turn and a half a turn. Speed my bead roller up. Get the piece set in square. We go a little bit more. There's about 3/4 of a turn. 3/4 of a turn. And now we're starting to get some movement. Let's see what a full turn does. Might be too much. It's not even slowing down the bead roller, and this is starting to come around fairly well now. We go another full turn. Full turn. Yeah, that was the one that started bringing it around. So there you have how to drive your slip roll with your bead roller. Well, that was kind of different, wasn't it? As soon as I get the aluminum pieces in from the laser cutter, I'll be doing a video on how to make the plenum chamber, and you might enjoy watching that one also. And as a reminder, I have the plans for making the plate type bead roller into a usable unit just like mine, and the one that I built for Gene Winfield. They are on my website, and you can find a link below the description in this video. Thank you very much for watching.